Hello and welcome to the second episode of MechWarrior Online. Today what we will be discussing is the closed beta update number 13, and this occurred on October 9th. The game playing in the background is MechWarrior Online, and this is after the update 13 patch. So I'm currently playing my Centurion, and I have it outfitted with a Gauss cannon as the primary gun. I have two pulse lasers, small, that is used basically when I run out of Gauss shots, and then two streaker missiles. They're good supplementary damage, and they also they throw the other mech off balance because they shake their screen a whole lot. So it's really nice for a brawling mech to have streaker missiles. So let's go ahead and jump into the patch notes. The first major thing that they announced is that the Cry engine has been updated to version 3.41, and this is a very big update. And I'm not really a big fan of the Cry engine because I run a Radeon card, and you can tell that this game really is optimized for an NVIDIA card right now. So I've been having a lot of troubles with the Cry engines. It constantly crashes on me. I can no longer close MechWarrior without it crashing on me anymore. You can tell that it's at the early stages of implementing the new Cry engine because right now DirectX is disabled and so is NVIDIA's 3D Vision. But with the implementation of this new Cry engine, you can tell that the maps look a whole lot different in terms of lighting, and supposedly what they said is that it also offers increased performance. So if you watch episode 1 and then you watch episode 2, you can notice a lot of differences between the maps. The next item we're going to discuss are dummy items, which are going to be available in open beta. These things are like the Cockpit Command Console, the Active Probe, the Guardium EMC Suite. They currently have no functionality, but they will be discussed in a future patch, so we'll just have to wait to see what these things actually do. Other minor fixes to the front-end client are fixed dialog message to be visible, launch mode retained when returning from match, which I honestly don't know what that means because I don't think I've ever had a problem from going from one game to another. The ready button is now exposed in the group chat interface. Restrict post MSAA to either on or off, and apparently this fixes jitters in the game, and I've never actually fooled with that, so I actually don't know what this is about. Prevent duplicate key bindings for the same controls, and lastly, a info button for the advanced options. The next item in the patch notes discusses new trial mechs that are going to be rotated in. And I did not know they were going to do this because in my first episode, the only one that I've gone over so far is the Hunchback. So I won't actually get a chance to be able to do the other trial mechs. So I will have to do these trial mechs instead. And just looking through them real quick, I actually don't like these trial mechs as much as I like the original ones. But that can be discussed in another episode. Moving on to gameplay notes, the first thing to discuss is weapon particle effects have been updated. And after playing the game for a few hours after the patch, I really haven't noticed much of a difference, but I guess when you're playing the game, you're really not looking at the weapon's particle effects. Holding Q will now show all known targeting information of visible targets. This works for enemies and friendlies, and it's kinda nice when you're bunched together and you want to see what type of enemies you're going to be going up against if they're grouped together in a small block, so you can always target the light mech or you can target the heavy mech. Default weapon group systems enabled. I'm really not sure what they're talking about on this one. Powered down mechs will no longer be able to relay information to their groups, and this is a very big change and a very good change because when a mech is powered down, you can't target it, which means you can't hit it with certain weapons like missiles of any sort. And if they're in trees, they're almost virtually impossible to see, but yet they can relay information to their missile boats, long-range missiles, to hit your friendly targets. So, very good change. LMR-15s and LMR-20s, basically long-range missiles, have a reduced chance of hitting the ground when fired at a near target. And again, this is probably a good change. Because LMR-15s and LMR-20s fire so many missiles, there's a good chance that you'll lose a few of them when they fire off and they hit the ground. I guess they decided to tweak that a little bit and make sure that most of your missiles have a chance at hitting the near target. Targets will no longer be lost when the targeted mech shuts down due to overheating. And this is one of the game mechanics in which when you're fighting and you lock onto a target, the second he overheats, you lose your lock on the target, which means you can't fire certain weapons at it anymore. And it made for some interesting gameplay, so I'm not sure if I'm really for or against it. It's just one of those where they decided to change it and you can live with it. It does make it easier on your life when you see a overheated mech, because you don't lose track of it, because when they shut down, you all of a sudden lose lock on it. You can no longer target mechs that are shut down. So this is different from an overheat shutdown, in which the pilot actually manually shuts down the mech. And to do that is you just press the P button. So P will shut it down. If you hit P again, it'll power it back up. So the reason why you would do this is that sometimes light mechs would go deep behind enemy lines, and they just want to shut down to make sure that they're not seen, they're hiding somewhere. Or if you're, at a very long range and you want to break a lock from long range missiles, you can always hide behind something, power down real quick, and power back up. So by allowing this, you're basically not allowing them to be able to easily target you with lock-on type weapons. There's also the chance that you might be able to fool your enemies into thinking that you have your mech was destroyed by powering down. So if you're in the middle of a firefight and you power down and they lose lock, they might think that you've died and move on to another target, and then you can power back up. But this is kind of a risky example, but I have seen it done in battles. Autocannons 2s, 5s, and 10s has had their fire rates increased. Also, all autocannons had their ammunition counts increase, so you get more ammo per ton. And also, what autocannons are, they're the AC2s, AC5s, and AC10s. It looks like they haven't done any tweaking for the AC20, which is the largest autocannon. And generally speaking, if you can fit an AC20 onto your mech, you usually do. It's either that or the Gauss gun. They have also done some tweaking on how much heat weapons generate, but they really haven't said much of that in the patch notes. The LBX-10 cannon has had its groups tightened up, so it had a shotgun type effect, so now it fires at a tighter group, so that you might be able to actually take out a piece of the enemy mech a little bit more effectively. For bug fixes, I'm just going to go over the ones that actually affect gameplay. Ally units on the minimap will no longer sometimes behave like enemy markers. Enabling chainfire on a mech with no weapons will no longer soft lock the game. This is when you have a weapon group selected and you hit the back button. This will turn on chainfire. Destroying components after a teammate disconnects no longer rewards XP. Chainfire will no longer hiccup when you are trying to fire a disabled weapon. So basically when a weapon is destroyed, or if you run out of ammo for a particular weapon. LRMs will no longer lose tracking when fired off of a closed lock target. So basically when you fire at a target that's very close, you won't lose tracking of it once you fire off an LRM shot. AMS or anti-missile system will no longer keep firing when the fire button remains held down. Suicides will provide no end match reward, so basically if you run off the edge of the map and suicide, you will not actually get any C-bills or experience. And that is it for all of the major important patch notes.